Hi everyone, happy Woman Wednesday. Today we're going to be talking about Love is Blind on Netflix, body image, and learning to love your body ahead of this Friday's latest episode coming out called After the Altar, where we get to hear a little bit more about how couples are doing or not doing after the altar. So if you are in need of HIV or STI testing, please look at the pinned comment. You can call 202-797-4439 to schedule an HIV or STI testing appointment. Whitman-Walker has got your back in terms of testing and healthcare, so feel free to reach out to them with any questions. But for today's live, I'm super excited to have two special guests on with us to talk through today's topic. So we'll get Whitman-Walker in the space and get our guests in the space and kick off today's topic. In the interim, during the COVID-19 pandemic, Whitman-Walker's Community Health Department expanded its outreach efforts to the social media platform. We cover various topics about HIV and STIs, sexual health practices, access to care, social determinants of health, and public health interventions. The community health team is here to educate and support you. And my name is Jewel, and I use she, hers pronouns, and I work to bring educational Instagram lives to this space with Whitman-Walker. Now we're getting some more co-hosts in the room. Hello, Touch of Tule. Thanks for joining us today. How are you?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. Hey, Stephanie. Welcome to the space. Thanks
for coming
on.
Sorry.
How are you?
Sorry, it was flipped.
No worries. No worries. Rama, Stephanie, Rama. It's so good to have both of you in the space. Rama is my work wifey from Whitman-Walker. Stephanie and I go way back to college days at the University of Maryland College Park, but everyone on the stage is a Terp.
All right.
So, go Terps. Can you both introduce yourselves and your pronouns for us?
Sure.
Start with Rama.
Hi, my name is Rama, pronouns she, hers, and I work in the Community Health Department at Whitman-Walker.
Hi, my name is Stephanie. Also pronouns she, hers. I'm a consultant and I live in Chicago now. Yeah.
Awesome. How do you like Chicago?
It's been really good. And I can't wait to talk about it a little bit more when it comes to that body positivity. Yeah.
I love summertime shy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good stuff.
Awesome. Well, thank you both for joining us. Super excited again to have you today. We've got a handful of Love is Blind fans on the stage, so super excited to just kind of chat about the show. I don't watch a lot of reality TV, but this one I have to binge like as many episodes as they put out all at the same time. So I'm wondering when you all first started watching Love is Blind and what got you hooked. We can go Rama, then Stephanie, or Stephanie, then Rama.
I similar to you, Joel. I also don't do that. Was do you want a prize for not watching TV? It's not even like it's yeah. Anyways, so yeah, but then it became a show that the folks in my community watched, and I was like, okay, well, let's tune in. We used to watch Flavor of Love, New York. So I was like, okay, let's see modern times and what's happening, and the concept was interesting. So it was more so just a sense of community as to how I started watching it. So just to not FOMO in the group chat.
That'll do it. And wow, throwback to Flavor of Love. That's the last round of reality TV that I watched. Flavor of Love and I Love New York. Stephanie,
so I started watching literally when it came out, like during the pandemic, and I think what hooked me honestly was the fact that they're in the room by themselves and we're in our rooms by ourselves watching them fall in love. So I think that's honestly like what got me the most. I felt like I was in the pod with them, and I mean, shout out to Lauren and Cam because they're the biggest reason I stayed watching. So not for the following seasons, but yeah.
Every pray that there's another Lauren and Cam to be found. Fingers crossed
Number 4.
for I don't know anyone's names.
No.
Yeah, season 4, but also there's like one couple that I
Mm-hmm.
support that's still going strong.
Yeah.
Is it Alexa?
Alexa.
Alexis?
Yeah.
Yes, and her
Oh,
partner.
I love that for you.
Nice.
Didn't know you supported that.
I mean, they seem to actually authentically be hitting it off. I'm still worried about Colleen and Cole, but you know, it just gave some red flags whenever we see them in public or giving interviews. So can't wait to see what happens Friday. What's one thing you each appreciate about the show and one thing you despise about the show?
Okay, I can go first. One thing that I appreciate is how candid the conversations seemed. I'll say that now because that's part of the despising. But I think the idea of being able to just talk with somebody through a wall and do it for hours on end and be super vulnerable in that space and have that be the reason why they pick each other versus like being on a dating show where you just pick them mostly on looks or love at first sight where you just pick somebody just comes randomly. What I despise now that I think it's become more apparent is the editing and how severely how severely changed the narrative could be. I have a very large problem with that because now you don't know who's the bad guy or who's the good guy or anything like that, i.e. Zenab and Cole. But yeah.
I definitely felt that coming off
Absolutely.
your statement before you named the names.
As for me,
how about you, Rama?
I think I'll start with the despise, but I think it's hard to say like what I despise. It was just pure entertainment, but I did, like for me, but I do think that, similar to Stephanie, the editing, as far as, I just think it's just irresponsible because, again, the topics are so intimate and it really puts people in a space to be vulnerable, especially when it comes to, like, I just think about like the work that we do, how being authentic, having like genuine conversations with your partners. Yes, they can't catch it all, but something as monumental as, when it gets in the space of like body image and like things that essentially can ruin someone's character and it's really their real lives. So I do think that wasn't great. But again, I do like how vulnerable folks are, like they're essentially forced to be in that sense. But of course, you'll find inauthentic people everywhere. Like, people put on facades and things like that in any space. But the candid conversations were definitely something that I enjoyed about the show.
Yeah, great points in terms of like the editing changing the narrative and then also just people being vulnerable and candid. I think one of the things I appreciate is that people are almost forced to grow. I mean, force is a strong word. Not everyone's going to go into that space and grow from it. Shout out to the person who was dating Deep T. Can't remember his name that much because irrelevant.
I hate that I know all of this,
but
no, like I'm happy that you.
I love that you know all about it.
Yeah, I know too.
But yeah, people are really forced to be in these spaces to grow a bit as people, and to not think so shallowly, or to not be so shallow. And it's a kind of interesting takeaway from the show. But season 3 brought some interesting and maybe immature characters to the narrative. I didn't think it could get much worse than Shake. But I'm wondering what some of the moments during the season that just passed or that made you all cringe and like around which characters these were and how did they address body image?
I think I go first this time.
Sure.
Oh, okay.
Sure.
For me, I think like Alexa, like what meets like society's like beauty standards, right? Like what that means. I do think that I loved the representation, like in Alexa, even Nancy, the different body types, and then of course Zenab, but like she was supposed to be like the average, like what folks would check off, right? Like, oh, a nice figure, according to the society's societal beauty standards and things like that. So folks who fall outside of that box, like Alexa, myself, like, yes, it's a pretty face, great, you look nice, but you know, being of the plus size community, immediately there are some insecurities there in that space. So that's one reason why I do root for Alexa's relationship, because they are not the average, you know, like celebrity couple, the it couple, you know, based on like their physical appearance and things like that. So I like that they're breaking barriers there and showing that. And but a lot of the conversations about Alexa's body really never came up. So her side, she was always embraced, right? And then so then on the other aspect of things, I'm like, well, wow, is it because there's space created for our Caucasian counterparts to really present how they are, and then less criticized for what they look like versus, you know, us, because I've never seen someone being embraced in that manner, considering, right, especially on reality TV. And great compliments, but I love to see it because, again, we check some marks together, like big and tall, and how, you know, and things like that. So I like that. I definitely appreciated that in that sense, but it had me thinking for sure. And then, of course, that our girl, I'm forgetting her name right now.
Zenab
is who I think with Zenab, where to us, she's aesthetically pleasing to the naked eye. So it was very interesting. Again, it speaks to the fact that how you see yourself is what ultimately matters and what you should work on and what you should focus on. And Zenab was a perfect example of that, because to us, it was surprising to see her insecurities spew out in that way to her partner. Yes, he validated her, but him, it was more so of his experience and what his preference, per se, in my opinion. That she was a brown girl, she was a curvier girl, and he's more used to like the, you know, thin blonde women and things like that, you know, blue-eyed. And she, to me, really, she looked amazing. Like, so Zenab looked amazing. So for him to share those things about her, I think it was just more so his experience and preference and what he's dated in his community. So not necessarily to tear her down. I think his intent was really to have like open and honest conversations. And we met within 2 weeks. So of course I will share this with you. But of course, delivery is extremely important, and his was poor. I will not take that away from the situation. And then there was Nancy. She was actually extremely confident in her body and how she presented and how she looked, and ended up being torn down by someone else whose personality I don't even think he's aesthetically pleasing to the average person.
That damn ponytail.
I think I was like, with hair like that, I don't know.
Yeah.
But so that's that on that. That's when body image and things like that showed up for me in the show the most, within those three characters or relationships.
Okay. Can you ask me the question one more time? Sorry, I was so focused on everything she said.
And such great points. Like, it was interesting to see the juxtapositions between how people received Alexa versus how people received Nancy and Zainab. But the question was, you know, what were some of the moments during the season that made you cringe around how characters on the show addressed body image?
So I think I'll address, obviously, the cutie conversation. And I think what honestly made me cringe more was remembering all of my triggers. Like, someone could say something and again, I'm not saying that anything Cole said was innocent by any means, but somebody could talk about, I don't know, their weight loss plan or something like that. And I immediately was like, oh, wait, are you trying to say something about like how much I weigh? So watching it felt more cringy because I experienced it. And I was like, girl, that's like not what he said. However, I mean, again, that's their whole relationship. I also don't like the fact that, I don't like the fact that Love is Blind is not truly blind, because everybody is objectively like attractive. Even Alexa is plus size, but she's not even like plus size. And I think we all know that. And it's like, I know that you said that like she was welcomed, and she was. However, it's like there wasn't as much of an acknowledgement like that she was on the bigger side outside of like her own social media and all of that. But like she showed up, and then when you saw her, you were like, oh, it's a bigger girl. But would I have loved if it was I think there was a bigger girl of color. I think that was on there, and she was only there for a hot second. I was obviously rooting for her because I was like, I want to see somebody that looks like me,
Right.
not just somebody who happens to look like all of them, but ooh, on the bigger side, so maybe I can resonate. Like that's the unfortunate part. Other cringy things, Bartiz in general, honestly, I'm not a fan. He's a child, and it was the fact that like when you come on the show, you obviously know you're not supposed to do it for looks, and then changed up exactly what it was when he didn't get the hot girl or what he deemed as the hot girl, which is crazy because like Nancy's very attractive. Like she's shorter. Sorry that she's shorter than Raven, but either way. And then I hate the fact that they tried to paint the narrative that Bartiz cared so much about, Nancy's personality and all of that when Raven was like working out while he was spilling her heart out. When in all reality, he would have cared more about her working out than Nancy probably spilling her heart out. But I have a lot of opinions about all of this, so that's why.
Opinions.
Thank you for those observations as well. I think it really was crazy to watch the responses on the show to bodies, and I remember when they flashed that heavier set woman or just like this bigger beautiful person of color on the show who I'm like, for the editors were like, oh, we got 1 second of footage of her, y'all. We matched our diversity and inclusion criteria for bodies and people of color. Like it was like they need to do better in that arena. I do look forward to a future season where there's a bit more of a diverse spread in terms of truly applying the notion that love is blind and really like falling in love with the person's character.
It's so interesting because shows do this so often. And I think another aspect of it, and this could be largely due to, I think Stephanie and myself identify in the plus size era, like the real woman, like the body, like the body woman, so therefore accept not like what you see on TV, right? Like having like the rolls and the stomach and Spanx, you'll still see it. So, so we don't think about how Raven was absolutely objectified and like sexualized by Bartiz so much because she works out. She had the more athletic build. Yeah. And he completely missed the point of the show. So he never said anything about Raven's personality in addition to her physical appearance. So it was more, I can only imagine how she felt in that space as well. Like, sure, but this is not what I came here for. And she even like, I love the way that she shut him down.
It was a good shutdown. It was a good shutdown. But yeah, I think, and not even just Bartiz. I remember the first time she like walked into the room and everyone was like, damn, that's Raven. Like there was a big moment of like eyes on her and probably some sexualizing of her body and just her in that space. But yeah, I'm wondering what emotions and responses viewing these moments evoked for you all. I think Stephanie, you kind of touched on it in terms of how, like I know that for me watching it, I'm seeing these folks respond to Nancy and Zainab's bodies, which I'm looking at as like, I mean, everyone's body was beautiful on the show, but I'm looking at these bodies as like pretty average. Like this is a person who is, I mean, not even aging, but like your body changes all throughout your life, right? So like these represent like real people's bodies, where you've got a little bit of a fupa, you've got, you just have your body's doing its thing, it's working for you. And so I know that I was watching it and being like, wow, like, I mean, I've got confidence in my body, I love my body, but like, am I not supposed to, given how these people are reacting to these people's bodies? So it was almost like a, make sure you're not letting the show rewire your brain while you watch it moment for me. So I'm wondering how did you all feel watching these moments of cringe?
Do you want to go?
Yes, Steph.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Nicknames, I just called you Steph.
Oh, Steph. You're fine.
Go for it.
Oh, me? Oh, okay. How does it make me react? It's the norm. It's usual. It's nothing is different. I think nothing being different painted with the guise of, ooh, like we're doing something different. It's all the same, to be honest with you. Watching the cringy moments, however, it does help me reflect on how much I feel like I've grown, on the way that I react to other people, on the way that I feel like my body is supposed to look, or how I'm supposed to feel about my body. Honestly, I'll plug it right now. Watch Lizzo's Watch Out for the Big Girls, because that will make you feel good about yourself, is all I'm saying. Big or small, anything like that. So I watch it for the drama and just to say, ooh, like they're falling in love. But outside of that, I do not look at it as a representation of how I should look at myself, because it's just not real. Like,
yeah. And for me, to Jules' point, I was just more so flabbergasted, like, because again, societal norms, right? So I was just like, what? Nancy and Zenab? But then I attributed to like your own insecurities. Like, again, insecurity at any size, just similar to how we say health at any size. Like, it's just it just further like it's validated the fact that like the way I think when it comes to folks' bodies and when it comes to my own body, it's really making sure that your numbers and your health and how you feel about yourself is priority over anything else, or what you see in society. Like, it's man-made. It's not real, because again, to me, they looked
amazing.
phenomenal. Yes. So I was just like, what? Yeah. I'm like,
it almost felt like it almost felt like, is what I'm watching real? Like, is this real life? I mean, I know it's reality TV, but is this real life?
It definitely felt like, I mean, are we the drama? Like, wow.
Is it us? Yeah. No, it is. It's us. Yeah.
Is it Nick Lachey?
No, not even him.
Yeah. As people, our bodies change and develop all throughout our lives. And as women, society and the media and people you date and family often feel like they have this place to comment on your body and just, have opinions about it. So I'm wondering, as you've gotten older, how have you learned to respond to this both socially and emotionally? I think watching the show, it was kind of hard to see it affect Zainab and Nancy in real time, because I think, at least for me, like I've gotten to this space in terms of my comfort and my love for my body, and I'm just watching how they're experiencing this blatant body shaming on national TV, or sorry, international streaming TV, and just seeing all of these places in which I can relate to how they're feeling. Like, oh, I felt that way about my body before, in terms of not feeling so confident in it, and thought that I had worked through this, but it's even like paining my heart watching this happen to them. So I guess, how did you respond to this socially and emotionally, in terms of learning to navigate this space whenever you're encountering people who just are the Bartiste or like immature people of the world?
I'll go. I think it took a really long time for me to get into a space where I was comfortable with my body, because I watched shows like this, and that's how you're supposed to look. I spent all the time trying to cover up my stomach, wearing the Spanx. I didn't really hide my arms or anything, but just like the shot where she was at the pool and she didn't want to get in the pool, but she was like, she had her like side wrapped or something like that, also reminded me of that too. Not wanting to wear like crop tops, two pieces, like all of that stuff. I went through a really long time of that. And one, therapy helps, because I tied my body image and self-esteem, I tied my body image and my self-worth to my self-esteem, which was really hard, because first of all, I'm amazing. Second of all, like, this is also amazing too, because it's the body that's getting me through life. So I think in having such bad self-esteem issues, I didn't put a lot of effort into doing my nails, or doing things that like made the body that I have like feel lit, to be honest with you. So I've responded to, that's all to say that I feel like I've responded to feeling so negatively about myself by like not being negative. I had a friend who said something about you should stand in front of a mirror naked and talk about like basically how much of a bad bitch you are. And I do that. And it feels great because then when I'm dressed, I can be that bad bitch essentially that I know I am. And yeah, and also I try to work on how I respond to triggers and realize intent versus kind of attributing or projecting that self-esteem onto what other people say. Because somebody could walk in and be like, oh, nice shirt. And me be like, oh my God, you mean because it's so tight or because it's so loose or anything like that. So that's how I've worked on it. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that stuff. And I loved one,
Amazing.
therapy is like chef's kiss. And two, I love the looking at your body in the mirror and like giving yourself all of the compliments. Like I've definitely done that too in various ways. I did a combination of a year of doing like yoga in the nude in front of a mirror so I would know my body at all the angles it's got to offer. And then also making sure that when I moisturize after a shower, I'm doing it in the mirror because no one should be able to check out my body better than me, in a sense, you know? So it is a practice to like bake into your life and your routine.
Agree. Yeah.
How about you, Rama?
That was great. Thank you both for sharing that. Hashtag retweet. But as for me, I think emotionally and socially, again, I'll just go back to when I'm feeling insecure, when I'm not feeling good about it, I've normalized that as well, because it won't be just like everything with my mood or anything that happens. I can easily get triggered by something. Every day is not going to be a sunny walk in the park. So I accept it and I've normalized those days. And I think if anything, that just makes it a standard. But the only thing that really matters is how I feel. So it's going to be hard for someone to say something about my body at the stage that I'm at now, and I actually care, especially even my providers, I would think twice before listening to them. You know, so it's just more, again, I was like, let's see what my labs look like and then we'll go from there. But yeah, so I think definitely taking the time to wear the clothes that going up a size.
Yes.
I believe, I remember just to fit in a number, you'll do a size that, and then next thing you know, I'm bulging out. I'm not comfortable. I will always go up a size for my own comfort. So I do think that that's like, as someone who loves to dress up, it's hard at times to not find outfits that you feel fit right for your body. But honestly, going up a size has changed that. I can wear anything I want, when I want, and how I want. So
okay.
I really
think big retweet on that. I was dressing for the body that I used to have. And I didn't want to buy clothes because I thought, oh, well, I'm just going to lose weight. So I just never bought more clothes. So then the clothes, I was starting to bulge out of the clothes that I had, and it made me feel really ugly. And I would go into spaces where I'm like, but she looks amazing. Or, oh, damn, I see like a big girl and she looks good too. And like, why not me? So I have sized up and I'm like, oh, that's fine. Okay, it's a 20, it's a 22. That's fine because it looks amazing and it's going to fall regardless.
Like, none of that is real. Yeah. Like, none of all of that are just arbitrary numbers. Everything is just supposed to look, and it's supposed to fit the way that I want it to fit, and not the way it's going to fit. Yeah. Sometimes, of course, you know, sometimes things happen, and I could be in that space, just like someone can say something to me about my car or say something negative to me about my back, behind my back. Again, I've just normalized the good and the bad days with my body as I do with any other emotion. So
I really love this part of the conversation. I feel like there's such a, I don't want to call it a learning curve, but I feel like there's stages in your life where you're kind of learning to dress your body differently. So there's how you dressed it when you were in college going in the clubs. There's how you dress it when you enter the workplace. There's how you dress it at the family function, how you dress it in all of those varying spaces and at different levels of like, you know, being confident and comfortable in what you're wearing, but also it fitting the way that you want it to fit. And so it's so important to like, to just understand what that means for you and to stand in that truth and wear what you feel confident and comfortable in, given the context of where you are, of course. But yes. I feel like we've touched on this in a few different ways, but I'd still love to hear it more, I guess, intensely. How have you practiced and learned to love or increase your love for your body?
You want to
go?
I think
no, you can go.
Sorry, go ahead. I think for me, it is like that looking in the mirror while I moisturize part has been something that I've been doing since like 2017. And so I know I've been in a recent place where like I didn't have my mirror handy for me. And so I've almost felt a bit lost without it. And I just got it back like 2 weekends ago. So very excited to get back into the practice. But that did a lot of wonders for me. And then I think also I started being more active, just trying to go on walks over the past, I want to say like 1 to 2 years. And it's just those little things of like me moving my body so I don't feel so stiff after like sitting at the computer like this all day. Like those have really gone a long way just in terms of me feeling better in terms of just the movement of my body, like it feeling comfortable moving and not like I'm keeping it locked up and stuff. But those are small ways that I have increased my appreciation for it. Like, thank you for getting me from point A to point B. Thank you for taking me on this walk. Thank you for being able to sit down at a computer and not have my neck being pulled, because that happened to me for like a long time. Those little things increase my love for my body.
Okay. Well, I'll go next then. I was just saying, and then they're like, "Okay, you talking?" Okay. So we, I come from in my culture, again, West African girl here, through and through. The women in my culture are very matter of fact, and we know there's a sense of the more weight you have on your body, the more there's a sense of like wealth or health associated with it. However, that's for male identified folks, and women as well. It's only to a limit. A male identified person could be as whatever they want, as large as they want. It just means, oh, they're eating well, they're well fed, they're having it. It's all positive. But as long as a female identified person enters that realm, it's wow, nobody's gonna want to be with you. But there's just a threshold of how thick or big you can be that's acceptable, right? There's a limit there. However, thinking of that, so I've learned to vocalize that is inappropriate. Comments on anyone's body, it's extremely inappropriate. And typically we don't speak to our elders in those manners. We listen to our elders. We allow them to cripple us in a way and silence us in the name of respect. Where then we forget to respect ourselves in the space, and not knowing that generations under me or that come after me will be able to also have that voice to tell someone, don't talk about my body in that manner. I don't like that. That is not kind. There are ways, but my body shouldn't be a topic of conversation for you. So as I've gotten older, those are not even things that, oh, you've gotten fat, you're this. I don't hear those things anymore. So the learning, it could be definitely not to my face. So in the spaces, I think what I've learned is continuing to have that conversation is something that's been extremely helpful for me, so that folks know it doesn't stop at anyone. Like, I would interject in any conversation and say, well, why did you think it was okay for you to say that about that person and their body? So I think between having those conversations and, I don't want to say body positivity, but body positivity, because it's such a trend now. So whereas it is really like a reality that a lot of people, we really need to like embrace that at any size. It's so important. Like, do not have conversations about other folks' bodies. That has nothing to do with you. So and that's a very, very tough conversation to have in my community with folks, but I do it. And I think that's definitely helped me in my own journey.
Wow, you're an inspiration, and like, can we take you on tour around West Africa and whatever other countries need to hear it? Because I definitely grew up hearing the like you go home or you go to any space, they're like, oh wow, like you're looking big and fat today, huh? Like, and it's just that blunt and blatant, and no one thinks twice about it being super rude or super hurtful or offensive or emotionally draining. They
No,
just like no filter on the mouths. So thank you for doing the Lord's work by putting some of these aunties in check, because Lord
yeah.
knows they need it. How about you, Stephanie?
I could also retweet everything you just said. That was really great. Thank you so much. It really just reminded me of the fact that I've had those absolute same conversations like with my grandmother and with like even with my mom. I do not agree anymore with just with keeping my mouth shut for the sake of respect, because I am of the mindset that, respect is obviously a two-way street, because I'm an adult now. And honestly, when I was a kid, I deserved the same amount of respect. I had to have a conversation with my mom to say, I think she was asking, um, she asked me if I was eating like a third slice of pizza or something like that. And it's funny because my grandmother was sitting on the couch and I was like, well, she didn't eat anything at all today. And she was like, shh, put your voice down. And I'm like, why? Because what you just said to me was disrespectful, right? And she was just like, well, no, but that's your grandmother. And as we essentially had to have a conversation where I'm like, thank you for making me. I appreciate that you're my mother. However, as an adult, I need you to respect the fact that talking to me like that is probably what caused a lot of self-esteem issues when I was growing up. And honestly, if I wasn't as strong of a person as I am, I could have developed an eating disorder. And not to say that people who develop eating disorders are not strong or anything like that. But I could have. And maybe in some form I did, but I'm having those conversations with my parents. I'm having that conversation with my grandmother who just tried to talk to me about drinking soda or something like that. Like, honestly, anybody could get it at dinner at this point. Like, if you're not showing any respect, I'm not here for it.
You stay ready. You have to get ready.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh gosh, I forgot the
Okay.
second point that I was just about to say. Oh, the question was, how do I practice? How do I practice self-love? That was a question. Getting my nails done. And it's a little thing, but it's a little thing that it just makes me feel good about myself because it's something that I can change. Like I have PCOS, so I have polycystic ovarian syndrome, which affects my weight. So in some cases, I feel like I can't control. Like there are a lot of factors that I can't control. So this is something that I can control. My earrings are something that I can control. The way that I dress, the body that I have is something that I can control. Not wearing, like I said, not wearing Spanx anymore. At this point, I'm showing off the stomach because when I'm naked, you're going to see it anyway. So you're going to get what you get. There's no sense in lying because this is me. And I've taken that mentality of, well, this is who I am and this is what I have to present into even the way that I talk to people. I'm like, I'm not going to diminish that light or diminish my characteristics just so that I can be more palpable. Like I'm not here for that. So yeah.
That part. No, there is no
I'm
need
just
to ever try to make yourself more
saying
palpable for
if
other
I'm too
people.
much, go find less. And I've been saying that for a very long time. Yes, I've been saying that recently, and it's like
It's giving IG caption.
I'm just saying because I'm like I know I'm a lot, and I'm a lot because I bring a lot to the table, and for that I can expect a lot in return. So
Hmm.
that's it.
I love that. I'm typing it out right now. um, what's one tip that you might say to your younger self about body image and loving your body? I think on my end, and one thing that I appreciate, someone told me this when I had just turned 18, one of my wonderful, like, many moms, many aunts in my life. They said your body's going to change all throughout your life, and it's your job to love it at every single stage of change. And so I take that with me since I turned 18 and got that beautiful message. And so I think it's something that I wish that I would have known to accept and love and embrace as a kid.
Retweet.
It was beautiful. I wish I would tell myself, again, to appreciate the body that you have, and focus on focus on loving that, like focus on loving yourself so that the love for your body will follow. I think mine would be a lot more like mental for sure, because that's what got me messed up. I'd wear a crop top here and there, but it was my mind that was messing me up. So
I think I would tell my younger self, all the rules are fake. Nothing is real, except for how you treat yourself. So no one can treat you any kind of way. Only you can. You have the key to allow folks to treat you anyway. So it's you. So it is up to you. The power is in your hands and not no one else. You decide how you're going to move in this world, whether it's through your body or anything else. It's you.
Yeah. And to keep reinforcing that boundary, because the second that people think that you don't have it, they're just going to walk all over it and see how far they can push the line, and not going to stop until you say stop. So thank you for that word. So many words today, so many gems. And my last question of the evening, if you could say one thing to the Nancys or the adult women of the world who are being body shamed on national, international television streaming, or just at home or in their personal lives by young boys and developing men and young people and developing people, or even old people who just have yet to develop, what would you say to them?
They are unhappy. It's not you. It's not you. They're projecting.
Yeah.
And I would definitely say he is your girl, your friend.
It's funny because I used to think I used to say this thing about, you know how guys like often feel like emasculated or anything like that. Nobody can make you feel emasculated if you don't already feel that way. So to flip that into this, it's like nobody can make you feel like less of a bad bitch than you feel. So if you feel like a bad bitch at this size or that size, like regardless, you're going to feel like a bad bitch. So it doesn't matter. And also, people are going to say whatever they want regardless. Nobody's ever going to be happy about, nobody's ever going to be happy about the same thing all at once.
Right.
So you can be doing great things and people are like, like I think I just saw something about at the Grammys, somebody's chest was hanging lower than like, no, like I guess other people's chests hang. And it's like, they're going to say something. She's at the Grammys. She's lit. She's wearing a great dress. Like, it's ridiculous, and like she said, it's fake. It's all fake at this point. So just enjoy your life, enjoy your body, and then either way, you're whatever. Put your stomach on their forehead. Who cares? Like, to be honest with you, I heard that quote and I was like, okay,
immediately, yes.
I was just saying,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Also, it's like, were you invited to the Grammys to even see that person's beautiful tits up close? I don't think so.
From outside.
Somebody said their grandmother's dusty couch. You're talking from your grandmother's dusty couch. Like,
keyboard gangsters. Like, what's the point? Yeah.
That part. And shout out to the fan who thought it was so cool to essentially body shame and like dress shame Janelle Monáe this week so that she won't be dropping any albums anytime soon. Way to go. You are a superstar for that one. But yeah, thank you both so much for coming onto this space, for being so vulnerable, for sharing your stories of triumph and confidence growth and just being bad bitches all around. And it's been really wonderful to share these experiences and just like our love for ourselves with each other. I'm so grateful for you all for responding to my Instagram poll that one time. Asking if folks would want to come on and have this conversation. Are there any last words you all want to say before we part ways for the evening?
You can go.
Oh, no. Thank you for having me, and I appreciate everyone's vulnerability in this space. And I do think that storytelling is how we see ourselves and the value. And I absolutely always value the scripts and the ideas that you come up with, Jewel. And it was great to meet you, Stephanie. And it's so important to remember that 9 times out of 10, it's never you, it's them. So they're projecting. So just keep that in mind and authentically love yourself and be yourself.
I think something that I've learned, it's about healing, but also just self-love, I'd say. It is a journey. I don't even think I'm at the full capacity of my bad bitchness. I'm not gonna lie to you. I still have my days, all of that. As Megan Thee Stallion said, bad bitches have their bad days too. But it's just like knowing that it's a journey. And that it's okay. It's okay if you're in the space where right now you're not feeling that great about yourself, because I was probably just there yesterday, and I might be there tomorrow. Who knows? But for today, I'm here.
Yeah.
So
embrace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you both. This has been so wonderful. Rama, thank you for reminding folks to just embrace their own joy and let the haters hate. And Stephanie, thank you for reminding folks to listen to Lizzo. I feel like people always brand Lizzo as someone to only listen to if you're a big girl. And I'm like, no, if you are a person who is a person, and like, because you're human, you have to go through stages of learning to love yourself over and over and over again. You should listen to Lizzo. She's amazing. She's inspiring. She just makes you grow as a person in terms of your self-love. So like, go check out some of her work. I had a little bit more to cover today, but I think I'm going to save it for next week in terms of just going more into the health and emotional and social health and mental health that comes with body image. So thank you both again for joining tonight. And
wonderful. Stay tuned for part 2, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
I just have some closing words and feel free to hop off or stay on, totally up to you. I just have some closing words for folks who are in the DMV area and need to access HIV or STI testing. If you would like to have a testing appointment, you can call Whitman-Walker at 202-797-4439. You can also ask them to pop up and provide mobile health services or testing services or HIV prevention tools like PrEP and PEP, or start HIV treatment with them by giving them an email or shooting them an email at mobilehealth@whitman-walker.org. And they can get on the schedule to be in your neighborhood. Before we go, we have some COVID-19 reminders. If you've already gotten the vaccine, that's really awesome. You've taken a really important step to help and keep yourself and your loved ones from getting sick. It's super important, as the vaccine is not 100% effective at preventing new cases of COVID, but it's very effective at keeping people out of the hospital with COVID, keeping people from getting too sick with COVID, and keeping people from dying from COVID-related complications. If you have not been vaccinated, keep on the lookout. You can schedule a vaccine appointment with Whitman-Walker Health if you call 202-207-2480. If they're not accessible for you and you're a DC resident, you can visit vaccine.dc.gov or call 1-855-363-0333. Maryland residents can visit covidlink.maryland.gov or call 1-855-634-6829. And Virginia residents can visit vaccine.virginia.gov or call 1-877-829-4682. And if you're not looking for an appointment, please continue to follow CDC guidelines for mask wearing, quarantining, social distancing, and the like. It's super important that you consider getting the vaccine and discuss COVID precautionary measures with those around you, but especially if you don't know if they've been vaccinated or not. We're also living through monkeypox. So according to the CDC, there have been more than 29,000 cases of monkeypox documented in the U.S. If you're in DC, you can pre-register for a monkeypox vaccine appointment at preventmonkeypox.dc.gov. Virginia's been working with local care providers to contact, trace, and identify those who are most in need of a monkeypox vaccine. You can also visit the Virginia Health Department website for more information. If you're in Maryland, you can use the pre-registration system on the Maryland Health Department website to register for a vaccine appointment. No matter where you are, please visit your state's local health department for more information about how to register and get vaccinated against monkeypox. Thank you all so much. DC residents, again, walk-up vaccinations are provided on a first-come, first-served basis to eligible residents, and the hours may vary day by day and location, so just check out those hours on preventmonkeypox.dc.gov. Finally, please remember to follow the Whitman-Walker family at Whitman-Walker on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And you can check the website at www.whitman-walker.org for the most up-to-date information on their services. And for more COVID-19 resources and general Whitman-Walker services, you can call them at 202-797-4439. Also follow more of the Whitman-Walker family programs at RealTalkDC _ and at NoFilterDC. Wishing you a wonderful